welcome back to our show. Here we are Thursday, and Cory Brandt joins us, who's actually closed 36 transactions year to date and holds RE/MAX's prestigious Hall of Fame and Chairman's Club Award. Cory, how are you, my man?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm good. You know, you're a big skier. You must be enjoying the mountains up there at this by now.
It's Crystal was epic this last weekend.
I heard.
So
Were they like 3 feet in a day or something like that?
yeah, it was just it was butter all day. Fresh tracks even for my last run.
Wow, well, you're lucky. I'll have to get up there. You probably see Heather up there. Some Heather's over there, like she's pretty excited.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as you're up skiing, you know, there's still is a real estate market obviously going on around here. How do you see the market right now as it rests? You know, versus maybe other holiday seasons.
You know, it's actually pretty darn busy. 2006, I was busy all the way through the holidays. I mean, just to give you an idea, just yesterday, offer on a house in Sammamish, offer on a property in North Seattle, offer received on one in Redmond, short sale negotiated on one in Woodinville, and 2 inspections negotiated. So, I mean, things are still just
How do you
totally
have time
cranking.
to ski?
Oh, I know. There's a lot of phone calls.
You must have your smartphone up there, you know, doing deals.
Oh, I do. I'm actually going to have to get a second battery because when it's so cold, my phone dies too quick. So
that's a good reason, I suppose. So, I mean, really, you have not seen it slow much at all.
Funny thing is, that's slow.
Oh, okay.
Or that's slower for me. But, relative to earlier this year it was crazy. So what I'm now seeing is people are starting to try and prep for 2013 because they're afraid in the spring market it's going to be even busier and they're going to get bid out. So they're trying to make their purchasing decisions now, even though there's actually less inventory. If they can find what they want now, they feel like they're going to get a better value than they will next year.
Yeah, I mean, and typically there's an influx of buyers, you know, in that beginning of the year. And maybe sellers are potentially thinking about preparing to sell a home. I mean, especially with house prices going up. What are some tips you have to people out there that maybe are preparing to sell a home and they realize this might be an opportunity for them?
Well, there's a couple key things. I mean, I have a lot of people saying, well, should I remodel my kitchen? Should I remodel my bathroom? Should I do this or that? Sometimes, yes. But the main things that they need to look at is do that, that fix-it list, that handyman list. That's number one, because nobody wants to inherit your problems. And then hit it with a paintbrush, new carpet, new flooring where needed, then take a step back and say, what else is important here? What needs to be done? So,
and so when somebody is potentially, is thinking about doing all these things, I would imagine having the right agent to maybe guide them on what to fix would be a good first step.
Yeah, I get a lot of phone calls from folks wanting me to come do a house tour with them just to kind of help them get a punch list or help them line up contractors, and that's something I've always been happy to do. Since I've built houses, I've got a long list of people that can actually help them fix those problems, and it's super important,
Do you tend to think that choosing that agent, I mean, is there... What goes into it? You get a lot of those calls, but what else goes into choosing an agent for selling a house? Because, I mean, it seems like when you're buying a house, a lot of it can be, oh, my friend's a real estate agent. When you're trying to sell it, it seems that maybe there's a few more things going on.
Well, and it's kind of funny. I mean, I, having come in as an engineer, I looked at this, kind of systematically and said, well, if I go into this business, I should be able to outperform a lot of other people in this business. There's a lot of good agents out there with all different companies. There's bad ones with all different companies too. The first thing I look for personally when I'm hiring an agent that's out of town, I look to see if they're a CRS. If they're a CRS or if they're not a CRS, generally I won't even interview them because that is a benchmark to show me that they've put the time and effort into the business, that they've closed at least 25 transactions, and have a certain base level of competency. If they don't have that, I won't even talk to them. Then I look at the firm they're with, whether or not they're full-time. And if I'm looking to list, I interview them and find out what they have for a marketing plan. It's not good enough anymore just to put a sign in the ground and walk away.
Well, and I would imagine you talk about experience. The average agent doesn't do a lot of transactions. In fact, yesterday we were looking at a chart. The average agent does like 3 deals a year.
Yeah, it's 3 to 4 deals a year, but if you figure that 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business, your average agent is doing 2 deals a year because there's still, nationally, it's about 40% of the agents didn't do a single transaction.
40% of them.
40%. So if you've got 20% doing 80%.
That's like 200,000 people. I mean, there's like half a million real estate agents.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, some of that is differences in state licensing laws. So, in Washington State, it's probably 25%, but that's still 1 in 4 agents didn't do a single thing.
Right. So then really it'd be tough for them to understand maybe the best way to prepare or present a property if they're not in the business necessarily of presenting and preparing properties for sale. Right.
That, and our contracts just changed yesterday. So are those agents actually going to know what they're doing with the new contracts? They change every 6 months to a year. There's some nuance that changes. And if you don't understand that, if you don't understand the legal aspects of that, what are you doing with your client? I mean, how well are you representing them?
But then it's also interesting, though, that the agents, you work with these legal contracts, yet you're not allowed to give legal advice.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's kind of a weird balancing act, isn't it?
It is. And that's yet another reason why I say hire somebody that's experienced, because we have the ability to do some limited things. We can write on the contracts and that kind of thing. We write addendas to the contract. And trust me, some of these addendas, I get them and I'm like, there is no way my client is signing this. Absolutely not. Even if it's going to potentially kill a deal. I actually saved a client a couple years back $50,000 versus the addenda that they wanted to sign. And it was just on an inspection issue. There was a rotting fascia board, and I said, that doesn't look right to me. Turned out the entire wall behind the fascia board was what was rotting. Wow. It was about $55,000 in repairs.
Wow. So really, I mean, you talk about getting a contract written the right way. I mean, you don't know if it's written the right way if you don't have the experience of seeing them. But if you're selling that house, I mean, isn't this the pricing piece too to entice people to want to look at it that only can really come from experience? Yeah,
and pricing this year is going to be a challenge. I mean, even for the best of agents, it's going to be a challenge. But I mean, to give you a quick backstory, I got a call from an appraiser. Actually, I had emailed him and said, hey, I need an appraisal on a house. And he emailed me back and he said, the appraisal is going to cost you $1,200. And I said, what the heck? Why would it be $1,200? And he goes, because if you can't figure out the pricing, he goes, I know it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then you get into what a lender is going to look at it, and we see it all the time. Well, you're going to need more comps. And you're sitting there going, well, where would you like us to go find those?
Right. Yeah, and I get, some of that can drive you nuts because of this new appraiser pool. They're pulling random people from all over the place. Mm-hmm. I just had a house not too long ago in Sammamish that the appraiser went to Eastgate and pulled duplex comps on a single-family house. I'm like, really? The house has a view of the lake, and you're pulling comps out of Eastgate? Like a
Bellevue College rental house versus a nice home type thing?
Well, nice home might be a stretch, but yeah, it was.
You say view. You say view. I think
Yeah. So.
We're here with Cory Brandt with RE/MAX. Cory, we have a couple minutes left before we do have to go to break. What are some special considerations people really need to think about maybe going into a real estate market this year versus next?
Well, and that kind of depends on whether you're a buyer or a seller. I mean, the one thing is if you're doing both, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're going to get the benefit of the best interest rates right now. Those are going to carry through, I think, through most of 2013. And, you could say, well, I'm going to sell high next year, but I'm going to buy low this year. Well, if you can afford that timing, great. But if you're buying and selling at about the same time, then it's kind of an apples to apples move. So make it when you find that house. I mean, when that right house is there, make that move.
And then what about just for buyers? I mean, when you have so many people maybe relocating to the area, the jobs that are coming into town, some people aren't selling. Some people are just trying to buy. Right.
Well, and you're starting to see, or at least personally, I'm doing a lot more letters to sellers to when I have a buyer that wants a specific area, I'm going specifically to the sellers to try and get them a property. Mm-hmm. Because if we wait for the house to come on the market, sometimes, we're competing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then I guess if you're competing, I mean, are those properties, and I want to just go back to that selling part, I mean, the houses that people are competing on is exactly kind of what you said. They're well prepared. They're fixed. The walls are painted. The carpets are there. They're probably well priced, so the appraiser isn't going to go nuts. I mean, there should be some thought that goes into the pricing. And then the last thing, I mean, the marketing of that property. I mean, that must be a big aspect, as you said. You can't just put a sign in the ground.
Yeah, marketing is huge because if you don't market it right, you don't get the traffic through it, and your opportunity to get multiple offers and get the best price is reduced. Your opportunity to minimize your inspection expenses is reduced. If you're not getting your best foot forward, you're costing yourself a lot of money and a lot of headache. And it amazes me. I mean, I see photos of houses that were obviously taken off cell phones, and sometimes they didn't even get out of the car because you could see the car mirror, and occasionally even see the guy that took the picture in the mirror. So, it's like, really? I mean, it's not cheap to sell a house. So, pay a little bit more.
Isn't the other good one when it's a picture of a bathroom, but really you're just looking at the toilet?
Yeah. Or the mirror, right? You get the guy back in the mirror, and it's like you got this flash, and here's this silhouette of this guy. So classy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Nothing like a picture of a house with a mirror and a toilet.
Yeah, and put the seat down, right?
at least put the seat down.
Right.
Hey, Cory, thanks so much for joining us again. Cory Brandt with RE/MAX Real Estate. When we come back, we are going to switch gears just a little bit and talk a little bit about plumbing with Steve Araki from Beacon Plumbing. We'll be right back after this break.